Hi everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and today I want to talk about what's the big deal about Salanova. If you've never heard about Salanova before, it is a type of lettuce. It is a patented plant, which means the only place in the world you can get it is through Johnny's Select Seeds up in Maine. And up till a couple of years ago, I'd never heard about it. I was pretty much not growing much of my lettuce. When we lived in California, we were very spoiled because we could get it super cheap, super yummy, super fresh, right from the farms. When we moved to Arizona, we found that the lettuce here was pretty atrocious. Now, down south, they're growing fresh lettuce. I've seen it in the fields, but they're not shipping it up here. So for us to get good quality lettuce was a real chore. It's not always easy to grow lettuce here because we have such crazy weather. So we decided we would try anyway, and I started doing a little research. Well, we watch a bunch of YouTube videos, and one of the things we make a point of doing is we have a lot of friends that we call them friends because we feel like they're family and friends from watching them for so long. But people who do YouTube videos, and some of them are huge gardening successes, some of them are just really nice people. But we were seeing a lot of fails too. And I started actively looking for what I would call successful professionals. Because if a homesteader or a home gardener loses a crop, it's not the end of the world. If a professional loses a crop, it could be the end of their business. We discovered, by pure luck, a man named Curtis Stone, the urban gardener. His older videos about how to actually grow things are amazing, and he still does some of those once in a while. And he talked about Salanova. He talked about growing them in low tunnels and all different ways, and he talked about how amazing it was. And I said, wow, this guy thinks this is the best thing since sliced bread, and he's a success. He went from being a pretty much nobody. He was not a trustafarian or somebody else who had trust funds and didn't have to worry about where his money was coming from. He was actually making a living, and he has a wife and kid and the whole thing. So, you know, he is a success financially, and that sounded like a good kind of person to listen to. I started researching Salanova, and I found it, and I discovered that Johnny's had it. And Johnny's is where I buy, not all, but a significant percentage of my vegetable seeds anyway. So it seemed like a good plan. Now, we tried it outside last year, and I have to make a note here. Last year was the worst growing season we've ever had here. We had all kinds of problems. Some of it was our own infrastructure. Some of it was just the most absolutely horrendous hot weather for extended periods of time. No rain. We did not get any of our summer rainstorms that we normally get. And in addition to that, we had bugs. Now, when I say we had bugs, I mean we had bugs. We had some bugs that I never even figured out what they were. And I'm usually pretty good with bugs. We've gardened all over the United States, and I make a point of knowing my bugs. And I have a bunch of books that are specifically on bugs and organic gardening and all that sort of stuff. And I certainly know how to Google things. And I went through master gardener lists. I went through everything. I could not even figure out what some of the things were. But at any rate, we did plant some Salanova. And we planted it over near our straw bales, which was another experiment we did last summer. Particularly, I remember planting some of this green sweet crisp, and it was terrible. The crinkliness of the plant held every little teeny tiny bit of dust and every little teeny tiny bit of straw. It took me literally forever to get this stuff clean enough until to be able to actually serve it as a salad. The other stuff that we planted was all eaten. And obviously that's not the lettuce's fault. We had a rodent plague, we had bugs plagued. It was a disaster. But we decided, and another thing about Salanova I should mention, it's expensive. I think my regular pack is $5 or $6, maybe even more than that now, for a pack of 25 seeds. Now, when you buy lettuce seeds, you usually get several hundred seeds in a pack. These are pelleted, so it makes it super easy to plant them, which was great. But I was like, wow, these have got to be really awesome in order for me to ever buy these again. And I said when I kind of gave a review last summer that we were going to decide whether this was worth it or not, because that's a lot of money for a few seeds, and then we had a not great response in the garden. And like I say, it wasn't all the lettuce's fault. Some of it was the weather, and some of it was the bugs and the rodents and everything else. Now, the little bit of lettuce that we did manage to eat out of that garden, we kind of liked it. And that was mostly the green sweet crisp. I don't remember actually getting any of the other kinds out. But we decided this fall we were going to try to plant. Well, when we came back from our extended business trip in August, our garden was a disaster. And we quickly replanted as many things as we could figure out how to. And then we had the most bizarre fall since we've lived here, and we've been here for 15 years. We had extreme cold and way early. Usually if we get a frost usually our normal date of frost is October 15th. But we've known from experience that a lot of times it doesn't happen. We also know that if we can cover things well enough and we get past that 1 week of frost, a lot of times we have very mild weather until December. Well, that wasn't this year. This year we had horrifically cold weather that just set in and stayed. And we had not just a dusting of snow, but we had a total of 20 inches for Thanksgiving this year. So what we did fall was we planted in seed trays and kept it in the house, and then moved it to the greenhouse eventually. Now, we expected the fall weather to be usual. Lots of sunny days, cool nights, but cool nights being low 40s, maybe upper 30s. And it sounds chilly to a lot of people who live in colder climates, but 35 degrees is just fine. It does not hurt a lot of plants. They may not set fruit. They may not do any handstands about how nice the weather is, but they're not going to die from it. We decided to transplant out at some point. I actually started these seeds. I wrote it down because there's a lot of numbers there. I started the seeds in the house on August 22nd, sorry. And I did Sweet Crisp, which is this guy. This is green butter. These are green oak leaf. Then I also did romaine and green star. Somewhere in there I planted some black-seeded Simpson too. And it must have been about the same time. I looked for black-seeded Simpson in my notes and I just didn't find it, but it had to be planted about the same time. We transplanted them out in stages as they outgrew their pots, and we eventually stuck them all. By October 4th, they were all out here or in some other larger pot here. We actually got our first harvest for a salad, and a decent salad, not just a tiny one, September 26th from some of the plants that had been planted out earliest. And we were blown away. We're like, that's cool. And then, of course, the weather got really, really cold, and we were just like, oh, there's no way, because this is a mostly unheated greenhouse. It's like in the low 80s right now, but it'll be probably 25 degrees in here tonight. It only stays a degree or two more than the outside. Our lowest temperature in October was about 10 degrees, and our lowest temperature in November was 6. So we just knew that this stuff was toast. And I remember coming out here and we were eating lettuce. We were loving it because this stuff just produces and produces. But you can see how big and healthy it is. These ones that look funny, it's because I've been pulling the individual leaves. Now, I don't think of Salanova, at least, as a cut and come again lettuce, but that's how we use them. We actually picked individual leaves as if it was a leaf lettuce rather than a head lettuce. I'm still doing that. I mean, I did it again yesterday, and we another big salad for dinner. We had some large romaine plants back in here. They bolted about December 8th. Black-seeded Simpson went about the same time too. Now, black-seeded Simpson is touted as being a heat-tolerant plant. It couldn't deal with the cold anymore, so he was determined to put out seeds. So what we have now, these newer light green plants here, were planted in here just the other day. Those are all black-seeded Simpson. Those were just started this spring. We're starting to switch out things. I expect these plants to bolt at some point, but it is now late January, and they have not bolted yet. The romaine bolted, the black-seeded Simpson that I had planted bolted. Those seeds that cost so much per seed that I was like all up in arms about spending that much per seed have outperformed every other kind of lettuce we were growing, hands down, and given us, I bet, 100 salads, maybe more this winter, at least. We're big salad eaters. We've been through so many recalls in the last couple of years where we were told to throw away our lettuce because it was infested with something, or it might be infested with something. It was so nice to come out here and pick romaine during the peak days of one of the big romaine recalls this fall and not worry about it. The Salanova, oh my gosh, just so tasty, so tender, so delicious. And I was actually listening to another YouTuber the other day, and she said that she's also amazed. Yes, it costs more money, and she's in Canada, so she has extra fees to pay because of the international shipping and the processing through the border and all that kind of stuff. She says it's still worth it to her because it holds in the field better than any other lettuce that she's tried to grow. It doesn't instantly bolt when it reaches maturity. It'll sort of hang on for a while, which is really important if you're actually selling this stuff for a living. If you are stuck with a lettuce that, you know, you got a 3-day harvest window on, and outside of that window it's not saleable, that's not great. But if you've got a lettuce that will sit in the field and not bolt on you right away and things like that, that makes a huge difference in terms of your profit margin. And for me, I'm not worried about profit margin, although I'll tell you what, we've had a fortune in good quality lettuce this winter. A literal fortune. These blue things, by the way, are sticky traps. I spotted a couple of thrips this month on the lettuce. I did not want to let it get out of hand, so we put the traps there. They are particularly attracted to blue, that color. I knew where to get them locally. There's a hydroponics store within an hour's drive that I can get them at, and yeah, we have a few thrips on there, but it allows me to really monitor, and also it controls them. Once they're stuck, they're not going anywhere. Back here is a butter lettuce plant. Now, you can see that stem. Each one of these little nubbles here is where a leaf has come off. And when I go to harvest these guys, you can see this one's the same way. When I go to harvest them, all I do is literally come underneath here and pull off a leaf. And that goes in my salad. I do wash them because sometimes dirt will splash up. But that is one lovely piece of lettuce right there. And that's all I do is I pick from underneath. I do the same thing on the, see, this is another butterhead here. This is an oak. Yeah, that's an oak. So it's got a slightly different way that it grows, but you still can see all those leaf spots where that I've ripped off. On the green crisp, which is this fuzzy looking stuff here, same thing. I just bend the plant over to the side a little bit, and I pull off individual fronds is the only way I can think of it for calling it. And there we go. And that's what goes in my salad. So delicious. I wasn't sure. A lot of the crinkly, prickly lettuces that I've had in the past have been kind of bitter. But this is just wonderful, wonderful. When they call it green sweet crisp, they're not kidding. And it's amazing. So I have already ordered and received from Johnny's my seeds for this coming year. We're going to do the butter again. We're going to do the oak, the green sweet crisp, and I think we also decided on one red, which is a red oak. So it'll look just basically like these guys, except it'll be red. And I don't know how long it'll be before these guys bolt. Since I've been eating off of them since September, I guess I can't complain if they do. This and this are both oak leaves. I have a couple more over in here. Let's see, that's a romaine. This is black-seeded Simpson. This is green star. That is green star. And basically I was using up the seeds. I didn't want to let them go to waste, but I'm so spoiled by the other stuff. And this makes a great filler. I did discover it is more frost damageable. This was not put out when we were having the 10-degree nights. But sometimes I'll get some burn on the edge of this, which doesn't usually happen on the other guys. When we had 10-degree nights, I came out here and everything was frozen. Literally everything was frozen. And I wasn't even sure that the cabbage were going to survive that. But everything had that slightly darker green look that they get when you know they're frozen. And I just said, I'm just going to leave it and see if anything survives, because sometimes things will sprout back from the roots. Not only did they survive, but by the afternoon they were perfectly fine and we had lettuce for dinner. So it was kind of bizarre. I'm hearing from other people that it's also more resistant and their environment is very different from us. This is all conventional breeding. I'm just loving it. It's the best bang for the buck when it came to lettuce seeds for us. To be able to have it here, to be able to say, yes, we're going to have a snowstorm here tonight, but I'm going to come out and pick a fresh salad for dinner, has just been amazing. I had to share because when I heard the other YouTuber say that she was so thrilled with Salanova, I said, you know, it's not really my imagination. And then when I looked up the data on when we actually planted this stuff, I was like, yeah, it's really not my imagination. This stuff was planted back in August and has been producing salads since September. Can't complain about that. September, October, November, December, January. Hey, almost 5 months. Wow, that's a lot of lettuce. But he still tastes really good, so I can't complain. Funny looking is just fine. I hope you found this interesting. It never ceases to amaze me the difference between different varieties of a plant. I've been growing lettuce for probably, oh, my mom didn't grow it, so I've probably been growing lettuce for probably 45 years, somewhere around there. And I just never tried this, never even heard about it. But, you know, what's the big deal about Salanova? It's amazing. Is it going to grow everywhere? I have no idea. It might not like your soil, but do your research and figure out what might work for you. And I just really had to share this one because it was so amazing to be able to have lettuce all winter in a greenhouse that frequently it's down by below freezing most nights. Hope this inspires you to do a little research of your own and figure out what might work where you live. Be sure to like, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We're going to have all kinds of gardening stuff. Oh, I might even do some arts and craftsy stuff. You never can tell. We'll sometimes take you guys on trips with us when we travel. Yeah, lots of fun stuff happening here. So, until next time, bye. And I gotta say, this is the funniest looking lettuce I've ever had. I mean, look at this guy.